Welcome to Chem 101. I'm going to be explaining the difference between atoms and elements and hopefully give you a better understanding of the difference between the two. Now, they are mainly talking about the same thing. An atom is an element, but an element is a very special kind of atom, so we need to know the difference. So first off, let's talk a little bit about what you're looking at here. If you look at any periodic table of elements, you're going to see something that looks like this. Now, it's composed of 3 parts, maybe 4, depending on what kind of periodic table you have. But we have the atomic number, which is found here. And then we have the atomic symbol, which is this here. This designates the name of the element. If you can find a periodic table that actually spells out the name, that'd be great. So helium, for example, or hydrogen. The reason for that is that not all atomic symbols kind of give up their name very easily. Lead, for example, is Pb, stands for plumb bomb, the Latin, from when this was discovered. So you might want to find a periodic table that actually has the names written out just until you get more comfortable. And lastly, the atomic mass, and we'll talk about what all of these are in a second. Okay, every element is an atom. Think about it as Lego blocks. If you have Lego blocks, there's lots of different kinds of pieces that you can use, and these are all fundamental pieces. Well, that's what elements are. Atoms are all the different Lego blocks, if you will. Atoms are the smallest piece of any material. So imagine if you had a pure substance and you broke it in half, and you took half that and you broke it in half again, and then again and again and again, until you ended up with something you could no longer break in half. That's what an atom is. And we have lots of different kinds of atoms, and those are illustrated by the different kinds of elements. Every atom, and in turn every element, is made up of 3 pieces, or some combination of these pieces. You have protons, which are positively charged. And if you've ever been shocked by electricity, you know what charge is. We have electrons. These are negatively charged. And we have neutrons, and these have no charge at all. Now, every element, and in turn every atom, is made up of these in different ratios. That's where this atomic number comes in. The atomic number tells you how many protons an element has. So atoms of helium all have 2 protons. Atoms of hydrogen all have 1 proton. That's what makes them atoms of hydrogen. The number of electrons can vary. In a neutral atom, like hydrogen, most of the periodic table in general is showing you neutral atoms. So all the electron numbers will equal the proton numbers. It takes 1 positive charge and 1 negative charge to cancel out. And so here with 2 protons, you need 2 electrons. If we have different numbers of electrons, we call those ions, and we'll talk about those in a later video. As far as neutrons go, we can use the atomic mass to find out how many neutrons we have. So 4 minus 2 would tell us that there are 2 neutrons. How can we do that? Why do we do that? It all comes down to how big these things are. And actually an electron is about 1/2000th the size of a neutron or a proton. And so the atomic mass is how everything is, what it weighs essentially when you add them all together. And the major components of this mass is going to be protons and neutrons. Same here. This 1.0079 represents the mass of a hydrogen atom on average. And we'll later on, when we talk about isotopes, learn how to calculate this number, which is something you'll have to do in a chemistry course. But determine the number of neutrons, we can just look at this number and subtract the number of protons. And in this case, we would have 0 neutrons. All right, so every element is made up of these same pieces in different proportions, okay? As I was mentioning, if we have a different number of neutrons, we'll actually call those isotopes. So we'll talk about ions and isotopes in a different video. For now, know what an atom is, that it's made up of these 3 parts, that all elements are just different kinds of atoms, and it's really the atomic number that tells you what kind of element you are. How many protons you have tells you whether you're hydrogen or helium or lead. In the next video, I will talk about molecules, compounds, and how we start to distinguish the two and name them.